Greetings, everybody. Richard Olivon here tonight, and I'm actually making my first attempt at doing a structured stream. Now, I've been a lifelong Sega fan since the Master System, since 19. We got the system in 1987, I believe, and was a Sega fan straight through up until they stopped making consoles. Still, I'm a Sega fan today, but not that much. They haven't really been the Sega that I know, which is fine. I mean, it's different company, different people, different times. Cool. But anyway, the Saturn has always been my favorite console, even to this day. But in like about 1997, 98, Sega abandoned the system, so a lot of us had to import our games. So you could either do that one of two ways. You could um, mod your system, like open it up and put a chip in it, which some people did. Those days, there's no way I'm opening up a console and putting a chip in it. No, not me. So I couldn't take that route until they came out with the Action Replay RAM cartridge, which is what I'm using right now to actually play import games. I've used it since 1990, 99. I want to say 98. Sorry, 98 actually when I got the import RAM card. And yeah, since then I've been using it to play import games on my US Saturn without having to cut it up or mod things into it. So that's really pretty much what I'm about. So what's this game about? Wachenroder. I mean, it's a German name with a it's a Japanese game with a German name. It's very odd. Well, to me, when I first saw pictures of this game, it has a lot of steampunk elements. I don't know if it was called steampunk in those days, but there was a lot of steam-powered machines and steam-powered weapons, and it looked like Shining Force 3, which is kind of like Final Fantasy Tactics for those of you who don't know Shining Force 3, or Disgaea even for those of you who know Disgaea but don't know the other two. So Wachenroder, the gameplay is kind of like that, but the game is entirely in Japanese. So I got like a little bit into this game when I was younger, but I got stalled because if you miss any kind of nuance in a RPG like this, you're just stuck. You're lost. There's no way you can get yourself through. It's just gonna be really difficult, and you're gonna struggle. So for other titles like Grandia, I was always able to find a translation guide, and so that's how I played through Grandia on the Saturn. Import copy straight through, beat the game, loved it because there was a translation guide available. There was never a translation guide available for Wachenroder until about 2003, and I just discovered this maybe 2 weeks ago. I got it on GameFAQs.com, and it translates the entire game's dialogue and the instruction manual, which is extremely important because if you miss things in the instruction manual even those days, you're pretty much lost because there was no in-game tutorial like now. You had to have the instruction manual and you had to read it for certain things. I always read the instruction manuals cover to cover when I played games. And yeah, so I just never really got that far into the game. I got maybe about, I would say about 5 hours in, maybe less. Maybe I would say three because I checked my save out yesterday, and I'm about four fights in, I think you could say. But the translation guide has everything translated, so I'm gonna be reading the translation guide in like a bunch of different voices. So they're pretty much gonna sound all the same, maybe just a different accent. but I'll do that to at least make it a little bit interesting to watch. And I don't really care if like one person's watching, nobody's watching. I'm just really gonna do this to get through Wachenroder because I've always wanted to play this game. I couldn't, and now I can. So here we go. So here we got the cover right here. You guys are seeing it on the screen. I'm going to turn this camera off because the stream's not about me. It's about the game. So here we go. Goodbye, camera. Alright, so Wachenroder. German name for a Japanese game. It's pretty much based in like an industrial type setting. As I was saying, it's highly polluted, steampunk, steam powered engines. It's pretty crazy, but as you can see, there's German on the cover of the game. I looked this up with Google Translate today, and this is what it means. High towers rise vertically and densely against the sky steel. Smoke and smoking chimneys. A future society in decay, inborn phobia of light. Bird in the dark. So that's what Wachenroder means. And I found like two different definitions for Wachenroder. It's either harvest guard or it's black water, like sulfate water. But I'm not sure. But I think it's kind of like a mix of both because the game is about people are sick, as I learned from the translation game. People are sick and they're struggling and all that stuff, and you gotta go and find a cure for your sister, I believe. But we're gonna get into that tonight. This is just the intro stream. So I told you about my personal history with Wachenroder. I translated the cover for you. Let's get into the story. Now, in addition to the no, cancel this. In addition to the what am I talking about? In addition to, here we go. This is what I'm talking about. In addition to the actual game dialogue being translated, the actual instruction manual has been translated as well. So right now, why not? Why don't we? I'll bring up the story on the screen so you guys can see the picture of the story, and maybe if you know Japanese, you could follow along and tell me if it's right or not. But here's the actual pages 4 and 5 of the instruction manual. I scanned them in today, and so this is the story of Wachenroder. If I could get the okay, the text file is a bit short, small, so I have to move a little closer to this other monitor. All right, so the story of Wachenroder is Edoald. Edoald Island is an isolated island surrounded by a fog. The native people's origin of this land is still unknown. It has been acknowledged, however, that these individuals constructed towns and cities on this island, as well as established their own original culture. Masses of iron and steel run along the roadways, and soaring towers continuously spew out opaque black smoke. So there we go. Maybe Wachenroder is more of the black sulfate water. But the next section now. It was a hopeful time. Most everyone believed there was no limit to the amount of personal wealth that could be created from the output of gigantic mechanisms of the world. However, in compensation for the bringing of brilliant prosperity, toxic substances, known as the water of death, were brought to the people of this land. These substances were discharges created by the heavy water treatment facilities and polluted every water source from the clouds in the sky to the ordinary drinking water crucial for everyday existence. So I guess Wachenroder is referring to the black water. Particularly in areas where there were no sufficient treatment facilities, poverty level citizens could be found. It was here that the effects of toxic substances could be witnessed, including, among others, infectious diseases and high birth rates of deformed children. The poisonous water had ruined these residents' health. Lucien Tyler, that's the main guy. He's this guy right here. He's the guy on the page. It's only, it's the guy and a girl. So we got talking about Lucien Tyler. Was born as one of a set of twins to a poor family who resided in the lower urban part of town. It was said that 1 in 4 newborn babies in the area would suffer from some kind of ailment due to toxic substances. Lucien seemed to live a healthy and vigorous life. However, his sister was continuously affected by a severe congenital frightening light syndrome. There you got that now. That's the severe syndrome. Severe congenial frightening light syndrome. What does that mean? This syndrome brought with it an inability for the victim to receive any form of sunlight upon the body without extreme physical pain. I guess that kind of goes back to the cover translation, which I read earlier. An inborn phobia of light. Okay, so continuing on, we're still on page 4. Day after day, Lucian's sister would become even more weaker. Even after she had lost most of her vision, she continued to try and live a fervent life. Why am I the healthy one? Throughout his childhood, Lucian suffered with a guilty conscience because of his sister's sickness. It was almost as if he was forcing the disease upon himself. He would often state that he was supposed to have had the ailment, not her, and so Lucian unselfishly devoted himself to his sister's care. It was obvious that Lucian was attempting to compensate for his healthy existence. Overall healthy existence. All right, now we're on to page 5. On a day against his father's wishes, Lucian exchanged some small earrings for some shining water, an expensive elixir of firefly water for his sister's health. In the dim light of their house, Lucian read a book to his sister late one night. It was her favorite book and contained the story of the tale of a knight and princess. Hey, do you think that knight will come to rescue me? His sister remarked absent mindedly to Lucian after he finished reading the story. I'll be your knight, I promise, Lucian stated to his sister, and with that being said, he nodded his head decisively, as if he had finally shaken off all the despair that had been haunting him his whole life. It was at this moment that Lucian decided to become a knight, and soon after he taught himself the art of swordsmanship. Alright, he taught himself the art of swordsmanship. Lucian quelled his disaffection for the upper class and their decadent lifestyles, for which he felt were personally responsible for his sister's condition within his daily training exercises. Oh man, see, this game just got political on us. he was he was a young man, both manipulated and obsessed with his own impatience and irritation, and it were these things that would never be healed. He knew he could not prevent his sister's ultimate death. However, that did not prevent him from giving her all the strength and courage he could muster to show her every day. Several years later, Lucian's sister departed from her world of pain. Afterwards, all that was left was a promise that had not been accomplished. Whom should I hate now? With remorse and anger, Lucian raised his clenched fist. He did not know how to put it back down again. Excuse me. While wandering around the dismal city, Lucian stumbled across a solution in his mind. He would seek a revenge against the Sword Emperor Dorian, for it was he who was chiefly responsible for the heavy water treatment facilities that poisoned his sister. Duran was an upperclassman who certainly must have been pleased with the wealth that was produced for him by his facilities. However, Lucian soon learned that Duran had mysteriously disappeared, and no one in the city knew of the Sword Emperor's whereabouts. Lucian then began a quest to find Duran and avenge the death of his sister. So that is the story of Wachenroder, the intro story, and that's really the first time I've read it in its entirety. This game sounds pretty dope if you ask me. Now, before we get into actual starting the game, we're not really going to start the game tonight. This is just the intro stream, so we're going to actually talk about the different characters in the game. I'm just going to the translation guide to find the page with the characters on it. And then we will, oh, here we go, introduction of the main characters. And then we're going to fire up the Saturn, and I'll show you how all that looks. How all that looks when you actually go and use the RAM cartridge to play an import game on a United States based Saturn. And this is the page with the characters on it. As you can see, there are a lot. Well, not a lot compared by today's standards, but it's a good amount here. Alright, as we said before, we got Lucian Tyler. He's the dude right here in the front with the sword. the hero of Wachenroder, whose sister has recently passed away. He blames himself for her death and feels that he is personally responsible somehow. Lucien is normally very calm and self-possessed person. Although he is quick to respond to threatening situations, he lacks team-oriented frame of mind. Okay, next up, I need to warn you guys. This game is from Japan, and it was made in 1998, 1999. What year was it? 1998. It says. Yeah, I got it in '99. And so let's just the description here of the next character, Carol Mew, is not politically correct for these modern times. But here we go. Carol Mew. She lacks common sense and is often ignorant of the real world. An example would be being defenseless in a dangerous section of town. Somehow, however, she projects dignity and refinement of being a proper lady. Carol is searching for Duran. That's really what it says. All right, now down below Lucian, on the lower left corner is the man, Duran Matthews, one of the five sword emperors. Duran was recently ousted from his position and his country on charges of treason. He is now on the lam, and Helder Lin has been appointed sword emperor in his place. Next up, next to Duran, underneath Carol, is Titus Groan. 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 Let's go with Groan. That sounds a little bit more official. A bounty hunter by trade, Titus is subjective and emotional, and is fully aware of his limitations. An optimist at heart, Titus' personality could not be any further from that of Lucian's. I must say, up until where I got into this game while I was playing, I've met none of these characters, only Carol, and I guess the next four, they're in the situation that where I got stuck at all those years ago. So let's meet those guys. Apparently, they're called Chemical Brothers Traveling Performance Troupe. Chemical, the leader of the group. He's the guy with the mustache. Despite appearances to the contrary, Chemical is exceedingly agile. Next up is Belle Bete, diva of the troupe. Belle Bete lost her eyesight at a very young age. We'll hear more about her in the introduction. Apparently, this man is called Fat Boy Slim. It says, I don't know if the translation guy is playing with us, but it says Fat Boy Slim is his name. And it looks like the katakana does kind of look like it says Fat Boy Slim. This song's name is Fat Boy Slim. A performer with a unique constitution. There we go. Next up, Idol Lace. An extremely relentless individual. Idol is an acrobat of the group. Now, below that section is called the Blow Monkeys. Frankie Zappa, leader of the gang. He is stubborn and very strict on himself and others. Next up, Small Faces. She is quick-witted and prompt to engage in combat, but at the same time, she can come off as a little shy. Next to Small Faces, we got Orange Deluxe, a soft-hearted individual. He's mechanically inclined. Excuse me, I'm not used to reading, for this long period of time out loud. Alright, next up we got the five sword emperors and empresses. This is the final section of the characters page. On the right hand side, we have Madame Lenora. Nothing's written about these characters. George M. Cohan, Benoit, Miss Miss Leomi, and Helder Lin. So there we go. Helder Lin's at the back. He's the guy who kicked out Duran. So that's pretty much the introduction of the characters and the story. So bear with me. I'm going to we're gonna start the Saturn now. I mean, if you guys were watching earlier when I tried to do this before, you've already seen this part. But we're starting the Saturn now with the action replay cartridge installed. Already plugged into the cartridge port. So, but we're starting the Saturn. Here we go. With the action replay cartridge installed. Oh, not that one. There we already go. Plugged into the cartridge port. So yeah, as we can see, this is the action replay video. The video, the action replay video, the action replay screen. It actually shows. And so with this, you can use it to play any Saturn game. I believe from any region, but I mostly imported Japanese games because that's what we got in New York, and that's what I got, as well. It was just a bunch of import games because, like I said earlier, Sega kind of abandoned the system, and if you wanted to play games for your Saturn around 98, 99, before the Dreamcast, you had no choice but to import them. And so, like I said earlier, people would mod their system, like solder a chip into it that had a switch on the outside where you could flip the switch and play Japanese games, turn the switch off and it would play the US games. I've never seen that happen. I've never seen a Saturn like that. I've only heard of it by rumor, so I don't know how true that is. But yeah, I was not about to be taking apart any Saturn or even buying a Japanese Saturn at the time because I was, when the Saturn was, I was 95 to maybe 99, so those 4 years I was 15 to 19. Didn't really have a lot of money to buy a Saturn. The Saturn I have now was bestowed upon me by my grandfather. So yeah, and it's always been my favorite console to play, regardless. Like people say Dreamcast or Genesis. For me, it's Sega Saturn. So anyway, this is the action replay screen, and yeah. So what you have here is this is how you would start the game. You have to put the cartridge in the system, open the CD drive door, have it open, hit the power button, then it comes to the action replay menu. You have the option to start the game. There are cheats, apparently. You can load cheats into for different games that it supports. As you can see, it says it supports 149 games. I don't know what games they are. I'm not really going to that select cheats section. Mostly I use this for is the memory manager and the obviously the import games feature. So there we go. That's my actual Wachenroder data from 1999, the last time I played this game. And I'm up to the spot where we meet the four chemical brothers, the traveling troupe. Didn't really finish that mission, but we're gonna start this game over from the beginning. I'm hoping to figure a way to mix the sound so that when I speak, it's actually a lot better. My voice comes out over the system music, but we're not gonna get to that tonight. We'll get to that next week when we actually start the game. So yeah, so basically with this, you would save the game on the system, but if you have a bad system battery, you would obviously open the drive door. It would kick back to this, and then you could just copy your data onto the cartridge. Because in those days, the lithium batteries would just die so quickly. But hopefully these days, by the time I play through this game, I'm hoping that I don't have to be copying it back and forth between the cartridge. But if I do, I do. No big deal. As you can see, these are the other games I played with this cartridge. Look, this is the Sega Saturn Shiro game. This is real bout. House of the Dead is here. King of Fighters 97. That's the reason I bought this. I got this RAM cartridge was to play that game. I have no idea what this game is for. But this is Deep Fair. This was a cool game. It was a kind of like a Resident Evil type of game, but you're on an underwater facility. Really awesome game. Perhaps I'll stream that after we're done with Wachenroder. We'll see. We'll see how this goes. So let's go and start Wachenroder now. Enough talking for me. Let's get this game going. This game that captivated me so long ago that I had to import it, but I couldn't play it because there was no translation guide, but I struggled through it to a certain point. So, here we go. Oh, of course, we're going to start the game with no cheats enabled. And we're just going to watch the movie as the intro movie and see how that goes for tonight. And we'll call it quits there. And we're just going to watch the movie as the intro movie and see how that goes for tonight. And I miss CRI. That's the company that owned Sega previously. Alright, here we are, walking over the main screen. As I said, we're not going. I'm just gonna let the intro movie play so you guys can get a feel for what it's like. So see, there we go. We got some industrial city. It kind of has some Panzer Dragoon vibes right here. That's some Panzer Drago vibes right here. Oh, there we go. That's Carol Mew. Oh, there we go. That's Carol Mew. This is our hero, I'm guessing Lucian. Yeah, that's him. This is our hero, I'm guessing Lucian. Yeah, that's him. Definitely Panther Dragon vibes there with that flying ship. Definitely Panther Dragon vibes there with that flying ship. And that's it. That's the intro movie, guys. That's it. That's the intro movie, guys. So, like I said, we're not really gonna be getting into the game today because So, like I said, we're not really gonna be getting into the game today because this is just the intro stream, and I want to do things a little structured, you know, because this is a role playing game. It's gonna take a while to play, so there's no sense in rushing it. So, yeah, with that, I'm gonna turn the Saturn off, and um, I'll be putting this stream up on YouTube as well for like post after views, because I don't know if I know Twitch won't save this stream. Mixer will, so if you're on Mixer, you'll come across it in the full unedited form. You're gonna see you're gonna see the confusion of the first 10-15 minutes. But that's alright. I think we'll get better at these as I continue along. And so, yeah, so like I said before, there's a translation guide available, and it actually goes through and translates the entire game dialogue. How much of that dialogue is translated, I'm not entirely sure. Let me just give you guys, but the translation guide itself is on, it's on, what's the name of that site? GameFAQs.com. Why is this? Guys, I just want to open with Notepad. Alright, it's on GameFAQs.com is where the translation guide is. So as you can see, this is going to be a pretty intensive thing. And I'm going to be reading the English part to you guys while the Japanese obviously is being played on screen. So I'm going to try and keep up the best I can. But like I said, I don't know how much of the dialogue is translated. I found where actually I was in the game previously, but it only does like the main parts of the dialogue, like the initial battle dialogue and then the after battle dialogue. But while I was battling, I noticed there was some other dialogue presented. My guess is probably just the same, along the same lines of what was said in the intro and the middle part dialogue. It's an old RPG. Maybe they're like saying, "Save us, help, please, save us," and they just say that over and over until you actually save them. I'm not sure, but we'll get through that part as well. things I'm concerned about with this translation guide is I'm gonna read up on the manual before next week, so I should have that um, done and dusted and ready to go. But I'm concerned about like items. Like how would I use items to heal myself when you need to use items to heal yourself? I mean, obviously there's a health bar and things like that, but I mean, I don't know how in depth the translation guide is, but I'm gonna read the manual guide, which seems pretty. It translates the entire instruction manual, as you can tell from the story I read earlier. So I'm sure there's some tips in there about how to heal yourself and where to get the items from and other nuances that might not be covered in the main translation. So yeah, that's really it for this intro stream of Wachenroder. I'm gonna probably do this every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time until I beat this game. So if you're around, you've seen this video sometime, maybe I'm still doing this stream and I haven't completed the game yet. Um, if I have completed the game, you can probably find the streams on my YouTube channel, which is just Richard Audley Vaughn. Just do a search for YouTube, Richard Audley Vaughn. You'll find me. It's not that hard to find. So yeah, that's it for this week. Nice intro to Walking Road on the Sega Saturn, and who I am and why am I doing this stream. So that's about it. I'm gonna be signing off now. If you're watching this live, thanks for tuning in. If you're watching this afterwards, thanks for watching. Like, subscribe, do all that good stuff, and come back Wednesday, 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. I'll be here. We're gonna get started with Wachenroder. I'm gonna be doing a bunch of voices for these different characters. Like I said, I'm not a voice actor, so I'm just gonna be doing like maybe the girl's gonna be like, "Hi, I'm a little girl," and the guy's gonna be like, "I am Lucia," blah, 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 blah. And then the evil guy's gonna be like, "I'm evil," blah, 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 blah. And maybe if there's some parts where there's blood being spit up, maybe I'll spit up blood on myself. I don't know. But anyway, Rich Vaughn, everybody keep it positive. Peace.